Time feels like the most obvious thing in the world. We live by its rhythm, measure our lives through its passing, and organize meaning around it. Yet the closer we look, the more elusive it becomes. Science, philosophy, and religion have each tried to grasp it, and all have ended up describing not a thing, but a mystery. In the language of physics, time was once thought of as a universal background, an independent stream flowing evenly everywhere. Newton imagined it as absolute and unchanging, indifferent to what happens within it. But modern physics overturned that view. Einstein revealed that time stretches and compresses depending on speed and gravity. When a clock moves faster, time slows down for it. When it falls into a strong gravitational field, time bends. What we call a single moment is not shared uniformly across the universe. Each being, each particle, experiences its own rhythm. Further discoveries deepen this strangeness. At the quantum level, particles do not move continuously from past to future, but exist in states of probability until an observation occurs. Some physicists propose that the very concept of before and after loses meaning in such scales. Time, they suggest, is not fundamental but emergent, a description that arises only when events are linked into relationships. Julian Barbour, for example, argues that the universe is a vast configuration of possible instants, and what we experience as flow is merely the mind stitching together static frames into a coherent narrative. Neuroscience finds a similar illusion at play within us. The brain does not perceive time directly. It receives signals of sight, sound, and touch at different speeds, and synchronizes them into a single scene. Our sense of now is not a razor-thin instant, but a brief window, roughly a few hundred milliseconds, in which perception is integrated. Experiments show that consciousness operates with a built-in delay. What we experience as the present is already the near past, continuously updated and recomposed. Memory and prediction give us the feeling of movement through time, though what we live in is a series of reconstructed moments. These discoveries invite a strange question. If time bends, emerges, and can even disappear in our own perception, what is its ultimate nature? Is it an independent reality, or only a relational pattern arising within awareness? This question has been contemplated for over 2,000 years in Buddhist philosophy, long before modern science began to measure seconds and relativity. The Buddha did not treat time as a physical quantity, but as a dimension of perception, inseparable from impermanence and dependent origination. To understand his view, we must first recall how early Buddhism analyzed existence itself. In the Abhidharma texts, which systematize the Buddha's teachings, all phenomena are described as momentary events called dhammas. Each arises, endures for an infinitesimal instant, and vanishes. This is the doctrine of kṣaṇika-vāda, the theory of momentariness. According to it, nothing lasts even for the blink of an eye. What we perceive as continuity, whether the burning of a flame or the persistence of a thought, is simply the rapid succession of discrete phenomena. The appearance of stability belongs not to reality itself, but to memory and habit. The Kathavatthu, one of the canonical Abhidharma treatises, debates whether a phenomenon exists in the past or future. The orthodox position rejects that possibility. Only the present moment truly arises. The past has ceased. The future has not yet come. To cling to either is to live in illusion. In this framework, time is not a container in which things move, but a conceptual arrangement of arising and ceasing. Later, Buddhist philosophers expanded this insight into profound metaphysical analysis. The Mula Madhyamaka Karika of Nāgārjuna, the foundational text of the Middle Way, dismantles our ordinary sense of temporal reality with radical precision. Nāgārjuna writes, "The past is not existent. The future is not yet arisen. The present does not stand still. If the past truly existed, it would still be present. If the future already existed, it would not be future. And if the present were fixed, it could never pass. Thus, none of the three times possesses inherent being." For Nāgārjuna, time exists only in dependence upon things that change. But those very things are empty of independent essence. They are momentary appearances arising through conditions. Therefore, time too is empty. It has no self-nature. What we call time is a conceptual measure of change. And what we call change is only the interdependence of causes and effects. When the mind stops grasping at these as fixed entities, time loses its solidity and reveals itself as part of the same emptiness that pervades all phenomena. This view is echoed in many Mahayana scriptures. The Diamond Sutra declares, "The past mind cannot be grasped. The present mind cannot be grasped. The future mind cannot be grasped." These lines are not poetic exaggeration. They describe the direct realization that no moment can be pinned down. To grasp is already to be one thought late. The moment one tries to hold now, it has already become memory. Thus, the wise live not in clinging to the flow, but in awareness of its groundlessness. The Avataṃsaka Sutra, one of the most intricate and visionary texts of Mahayana, expands this understanding to a cosmic scale. It portrays a universe where time and space interpenetrate without obstruction. In one instant, countless eons unfold, and within countless eons, a single instant contains all. The Bodhisattva Samantabhadra perceives the mutual inclusion of all times, seeing past, present, and future as reflections within the mirror of suchness. Here, time is not linear but holographic, a vast network of interdependent conditions, each illuminating the others. This vision may sound mythic, yet it speaks to something both experiential and philosophical. In deep meditative absorption, practitioners often report the collapse of sequential time. The present expands without edge. Memories and anticipations dissolve. Awareness rests as luminous stillness. The Sayutta Nikaya describes the Buddha abiding mindful and clearly aware, perceiving the arising and passing of phenomena. In such seeing, the mind no longer interprets events as happening in time, but recognizes time as the rhythm of its own cognition. Another text, the Milinda offers a dialogue that further clarifies this. When King Milinda asks the monk Nagasena whether the person of today is the same as that of yesterday, Nagasena replies, "It is not the same, nor another." He compares the continuity of existence to the flame of a lamp, which changes with each instant, yet appears continuous because the fuel and wick sustain a causal sequence. The relation between moments of consciousness is exactly like this, neither identical nor separate. Time, then, is not a thread that holds existence together, but the mental label for this ceaseless arising. The Mahaprajñāparamita Shastra, attributed to Nāgārjuna, comments that time has no own being, for it is known only through phenomena. When phenomena cease, time also ceases. This statement bridges philosophy and meditation. It implies that to perceive reality beyond conceptual proliferation is to stand outside the ordinary sense of duration. When all conditioned dharmas are seen as empty, the past and future lose their authority, and the present itself opens into timeless awareness. Zen masters later expressed this insight in a direct and paradoxical way. Dōgen, in his essay Uji, often translated as being time, wrote that time itself is being and all being is time. For him, every moment is complete in itself, not a fragment of a moving line. To think that a moment passes is ignorance. To see each moment as the total manifestation of existence is awakening. When a bird sings, that sound is not occurring within time. It is time expressing itself as a bird's voice. If we return to modern science with this understanding, its discoveries begin to look less foreign. Physics shows that there is no universal now. Buddhism teaches that there is no absolute moment. Neuroscience shows that the flow of time is constructed by the brain. Buddhism says that it is constructed by mind. Both converge on the insight that time, while experientially undeniable, lacks independent essence. It is dependent on perception, on change, on causality, and thus ultimately empty. But Buddhism goes one step further. It invites us not only to analyze time, but to transcend the attachment to it. The Anguttara Nikāya recounts the Buddha saying, "The world is swept away. It does not endure. The world is without shelter, without protector." These reflections are not meant to cause despair, but to awaken understanding. Recognizing impermanence is the first step to freedom. When one sees that every conditioned thing is fleeting, one ceases to grasp for permanence within it. In meditation, practitioners observe the birth and death of sensations, thoughts, and emotions with calm attention. Gradually, they see that there is no gap between arising and ceasing. They are two sides of one event. The mind's attempt to find continuity softens, is less than #0. 3# is greater than, and awareness rests in what the Therigatha calls the stilling of formations. Here, time loses its grip because there is no longer anyone measuring it. Contemporary scholars of consciousness, such as Evan Thompson and Francisco Varela, have noted how this meditative insight parallels phenomenological analyses of temporal experience. Varela proposed that consciousness operates through micro-moments of perception, each about 1/10 of a second long, which integrate into the lived flow of time. Buddhist practitioners, through mindfulness, directly perceive these transitions and eventually experience the gap between them, the timeless clarity beneath succession. Yet this insight is not a withdrawal from life. On the contrary, when one understands time's empty nature, every moment becomes infinitely precious. The past and future lose their weight, but the present does not become trivial. It becomes vast. Lotus Sutra. The Buddha declares that all Buddhas of past, present, and future are but one Dharma. This is not metaphysical rhetoric. It points to the realization that awakening is not bound by time. The enlightened mind acts freely within change because it no longer divides experience into was, is, and will be. From the perspective of ultimate truth, known in Mahayana as paramārtha-satya, time is a conventional designation, useful for communication, but empty of inherent nature. From the relative truth, or so-satya, it functions as the field where karma unfolds and compassion acts. Both levels coexist. The bodhisattva lives fully within the rhythm of birth and death, yet inwardly abides in the timeless awareness of Dharmadhatu. This union of time and timelessness is what allows compassion to operate without attachment. In daily life, the same principle applies. We schedule, remember, and plan, but these are tools of coordination, not measures of our being. The deeper we cling to them, the more we suffer, because time in the grasping mind becomes a thief. It steals youth, possibilities, and security. But when we see that the thief and the treasure are one illusion, anxiety dissolves. The clock still turns, but it no longer defines who we are. This understanding was beautifully summarized in a verse from the Dhammapada. There is no path in the sky, and no conditions for the saint who has entered freedom. The sky here symbolizes the openness of awareness, unbounded by temporal coordinates. For the awakened one, moments are not obstacles or stepping stones. They are expressions of the eternal present. Even within science, certain thinkers begin to touch this intuition. Carlo Rovelli describes reality as a network of relations where time fades at the deepest level, and what remains is the dance of events depending on each other. His description of the world without time unintentionally echoes the Buddhist image of dependent origination. Pratītya-samutpāda, where nothing exists by itself, yet everything arises together. In this light, to say that time is an illusion does not mean that it is false, but that it is conditional. It is real as experience, but not ultimately real. The Buddha often used the metaphor of dreams to describe conditioned existence. In a dream, events seem to unfold in time, but when we awaken, we realize that the dream had no duration apart from the mind that imagined it. Similarly, the universe appears to move through epochs, but from the perspective of awakening, it has never moved at all. To grasp this is to touch a profound kind of peace. The past cannot bind, the future cannot threaten, and the present cannot be lost, because the very division among them has dissolved. In that clarity, action becomes spontaneous, not driven by fear or hope. Compassion acts naturally, not to gain merit or secure outcome, but because life expresses itself freely in each moment. So what is time? From science, it is a dimension shaped by motion and gravity, an emergent relation among events. From the mind side, it is a cognitive rhythm born of memory and anticipation. From the Buddhist view, it is the shadow of impermanence, the conceptual echo of things arising and ceasing. It is neither purely real nor purely illusion. It is the appearance of change seen through the lens of consciousness. When the Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree, tradition says he saw the arising and passing of countless world systems within a single instant. This vision was not a cosmic spectacle, but a realization of the non-dual nature of time itself. The infinite and the momentary are not two. The smallest thought holds eternity, and eternity manifests as this fleeting thought. To live with that understanding is to walk freely within time, without being confined by it. The calendar continues. The seasons turn. The body ages. Yet within that flow, the heart abides unmoved. This is what the Shurangama Sutra calls the unmoving mind within all movement. When one recognizes that time is the play of conditions within awareness, then every instant, no matter how brief, becomes a gate to the timeless. Perhaps this is why the Buddha spoke of liberation not as a future attainment, but as the unborn, the unaging, the deathless. These words do not point to another world beyond time, but to the recognition that even now, beneath the changing appearances, the essence of awareness has never entered time at all. So is time real or an illusion? The only honest answer is that it is both, depending on how deeply we see. For the ordinary mind, time is the current that carries all things away. For the awakened mind, it is the shimmering reflection of eternity within motion. To awaken to that is not to escape the world, but to discover that every moment has always been enough.